A few weeks ago, I moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of a city. It wasn't anything special, just a quiet, affordable place where I could start fresh. The previous tenant had left in a hurry, and the landlord barely said a word about them. I didn't care. I just needed a place to call my own. The first night was uneventful. I spent my time unpacking, arranging furniture, and trying to settle in. The apartment had an old landline phone mounted on the wall. It seemed outdated, but I left it there, thinking it might be useful in case my cell phone died. The second night, however, was different. At exactly 1 a.m., the phone rang. The sharp sound jolted me awake. Disoriented, I stumbled out of bed and picked up the receiver. Hello? Silence. I repeated myself, but no one answered. There was no dial tone, no background noise, just empty static. Assuming it was a wrong number, I hung up and went back to bed. The next night, at the exact same time, the phone rang again. This time, I hesitated before answering. When I finally picked up, there was the same silence. Then, just as I was about to hang up, I heard something. A whisper. It was faint, almost indiscernible, but I could make out the sound of someone breathing. My skin prickled as I strained to hear more, but the line went dead. Over the next few nights, the calls continued. Always at 1 a.m. Always the same static and faint whispering. It was enough to make me uneasy, but not enough to call the police. I told myself it was some prank or maybe a faulty phone line. But then things got worse. One night, after the usual call, I unplugged the phone. I wanted to put an end to this once and for all. But at exactly 1 a.m., the ringing returned. My heart pounded as I stared at the disconnected phone. It was impossible, it wasn't even plugged in. Trembling, I picked up the receiver. This time, there was no silence. A voice, soft, distorted, whispered my name. I dropped the phone and stumbled backward. My name. It had spoken my name. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my cell phone and dialed my best friend, Mark. Dude, it's late, Mark groaned when he answered. Mark, I think someone's messing with me. The phone keeps ringing, even when it's unplugged. And just now, someone whispered my name. There was a long pause. Are you sure you're not dreaming? I know what I heard, Mark. He sighed. All right, I'll come over tomorrow. Just try to get some sleep. I barely slept that night. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every creak in the apartment felt unnatural. When Mark arrived the next morning, I showed him the phone. Maybe it's got some old backup power, he suggested. Even if it did, why would someone be calling me at the same time every night? And how did they know my name? Mark frowned but didn't have an answer. Let's set up a camera tonight. See if we catch anything. That night, we positioned my security camera facing the phone and left my cell phone recording nearby. When 1 a.m. approached, we both sat on the couch, waiting. The phone rang. We jumped. Mark gestured for me to answer. I hesitated, then picked up. Hello. This time, the whisper was clearer. My stomach dropped. It was my own voice. Get out. I felt the blood drain from my face. Mark saw my reaction and grabbed the receiver. Who the hell is this? Click. The line went dead. We played back the recordings. The phone had clearly rung, but the camera showed nothing. No movement, no one near the phone. Nothing at all. And the cell phone recording? It captured the ringing, but the whisper was absent. Dude, this is messed up, Mark muttered. Maybe your apartment's haunted. I laughed nervously, but deep down, I knew he might be right. Over the next few days, I did some research. I asked around about the previous tenant, but no one seemed to know much. The landlord was oddly evasive. Eventually, I managed to track down a neighbor, an old woman who had lived in the building for years. The man who lived there before you? She said, lowering her voice. He was a quiet one. Lived alone. Then one night, he just disappeared. I felt a chill creep down my spine.